Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Very. Okay, so today I'm going to tell you about what happened to me during World War II. And I wanted to thank Pastor Jacob for inviting me here, but he's not here. And before I tell you about my story, I'm going to tell you first about my family, very short, and then I'll give you a few dates so that to tell you how war started in France, very short, and then I'll tell you about a few places that I visited where Jews were sent, and then I will tell you about my story. So now here are my parents. My mother is French. She was born in Marseille. Marseille is southern France, near Italy. And my father, however, was Romanian. And but I have no idea when he came to France. My mother never told me anything about my father. She never told me anything about my grandparents. And that's why that at one point I had to do some research. And I found this letter that written in French by my father. He tells how he met my mother at a dance. And at first he said she was a little nothing and he wasn't too impressed, but I guess things changed and he married her. So I was born in 1938 and my sister was born in 1939, but my father died at war in 1940, right away. So now I push here and it, oh, I see, yes. So this is my father, Monique Saigal. I changed the spelling of my name when I married my Catholic husband. I think that I said that it was because people called me Saigal and my name is Saigal, but I think it's probably because I didn't want people to know that I was Jewish because it's a Jewish name. And so posthumously, he received the war, the Medal of War. So here I am with my sister. I think you might be able to figure out who I am. My sister was always taller than me, although here she's 2 and I'm 3. So this is Maréchal Pétain. Have you heard about Maréchal Pétain? The French Hitler? So Maréchal Pétain was actually the hero of World War I. So people really had a lot of respect for him. So he wanted to, he said, la terre, elle ne ment pas, the soil doesn't lie, that's true. I mean, that's right. I have a vegetable garden, and well, it's not doing well now, but when it's colder, it's better. So he wanted a national revolution. Instead of liberty, equality, fraternity, he wanted work, family, fatherland. So that sounds okay. You see the house that's bent, that's the Jews. That's what the Jews did to France, according to him. And above it, you see the star, the Jewish star. And underneath, you see all the people Hitler wanted to get rid of. It was not only the Jews, it was the gypsies, the Masons, the handicapped, the etc. And he wanted a pure race, blonde hair, blue eyes. So what happened, the September 3rd, 1939, France declared war to Germany because they had invaded Poland. So 9 months later, like a pregnancy, the Germans enter Paris, the capital, and things are bad. So what could we do? So Pétain the Maréchal, he decided to sign the armistice with Germany. Oh my God. So it seems like it might be a good idea, but it's not going to be a good idea. At that time, and then the names of the streets are going to be, instead of being in French in Paris, they're going to be in German. And the Jews are going to have to wait to wear the Jewish star. I'll get back to that. And here is a wedding where the young girl wears the Jewish star. And the children under age 6 had to wear the Jewish star. And if you were Jewish, you didn't have the Jewish star, well, you will be arrested. So what happened after 10 days after the armistice, Pétain is going to be the chief of France, and he's going to have all the powers. And so that is not going to be very good. So then he is, yes. I don't understand this. Right. No, here. So see, this is my daughter, by the way, Marie-Lise, my oldest daughter. She comes with me in case I forget something, she tells me. So she's very helpful. So anyway, when Pétain signed the armistice with Hitler, there are different things that happened. France became divided in 2 zones. The northern part, the northern zone was occupied by the Germans, and the southern zone was free. But it wasn't free very much because first, the November 11, 1942, it was no longer free. So I'm going to show you this. So you see Vichy in the supposedly free zone is where Pétain rules and lives. And then near Germany, Le Struthof is a camp where the only camp in France where they're going to kill Jews. And I visited it, and I will show you some pictures in a minute. Now, the other thing is in West France, Southwest France, this little village called Lu. Lu was where I'm going to go. I'm going to be, by chance, I'm going to arrive there. So I will tell you how in a minute. And so this is what I had forgotten to show you, you see. And then we're going to get to the Veldiv. And these people are going to get there in buses. And I don't understand why it's not there. Oh, here it is, Veldiv. So this Veldiv raid, it's called Operation Spring Breeze, which is a strange name because that's where they're going to send the Jews. It was created in 1934 for the Olympic Games. And you can see some cyclists there, but that was not 1942. I got this picture on the web. So 30,000 Jews were supposed to be sent to the Veldiv Velodrome, but only 22,000 were sent. So that was good. That meant that some people were helping the Jews. So the people who were sent there are waiting to be sent to Drancy. And this is around Paris. So Drancy is a transit camp. And they're going to be sent in cattle cars, a lot of people, and in the same area. And there are old people, young people, children. There is a pail for people who need to go, but of course, you know, and it doesn't work very well. There are too many people, and the smell must be terrible. So then there was the prisoners who were in Drancy, were some prisoners. They were building a tunnel, and there was a night group and a day group. But what happened is that one day, one of the prisoners was sent to another camp. So he said, oh, Drancy was so much better. We were building a tunnel, we were going to escape. So this didn't fall into a deaf ear. So very fast, Klaus Barbie, the butcher of Lyon. Lyon is a city near south of France. He sent a group of people to send the people who were building the tunnel at that moment to Auschwitz. And so I was lucky to interview a woman, André Warlin, who was married to a doctor. And that doctor was also building the tunnel, but he was not in the tunnel at this time. So he managed to survive. So there's a memorial there, and you see the apartments, they're built like this, like in a circle. And people live there now, and I'm sure a lot of them don't know what really happened there, because it's not Beverly Hills. So Le Struthof, I told you that Le Struthof was a concentration camp in France near the border of Germany. And so I visited there, and I went with my husband. He was the one taking pictures. So this is a rope that was used when a prisoner did not do what he was supposed to do, or he did it badly. And so they would hang that prisoner and ask everybody else to come and watch, so they would know what would happen to them if they did not behave. So here, let's see. Oh, this is so little, I can't see here. Oh, here. So here, that's 2002. I was a lot younger, and I was trying to lift this wheelbarrow because the women had to put heavy stones, heavy bricks in this wheelbarrow in order to build roads. So that was a tough job. So here, there was a crematorium. And I read that it's the only concentration camp in France. The other ones were, camps, but not concentration. Concentration camp where there was a crematorium and they gassed people. Le Chambon-sur-Lignon, I love this place because it was near the Alps. It was a Protestant area. And in France, there are not many Protestants, or at least, especially in those days, there were not many Protestants. And there was this town that I visited, Le Chambon-sur-Lignon, where the pastor, André Trocmé, asked the people, not only in his town, but in the surrounding towns, to protect the people that Hitler wanted to get rid of. So there were 5,000 people whom he saved, and from the 5,000 people, there were 3,500 Jews. So there were gypsies, there were handicapped people, there were all the people Hitler wanted to get rid of. And so I interviewed people there, but they were men. And so they're not in my book because my book is about, well, my book is about my story, and it has pictures of my family, et cetera, but it also has all the interviews I conducted with women who were in the resistance. And this one is in French, that's why it's a different color. So anyway, there is a writer in LA called Pierre Sauvage who was born there, a Jewish man who was born in Chambon-sur-Lignon during the war, and he wrote a book called The Weapons of the Spirit. So anyway, let's see. Vassieux-en-Vercors was also near the Alps, and that's where the men were in the resistance and were fighting and had weapons. Because the women whom I interviewed who were in the resistance were not allowed to use weapons. They had to use their imagination, their tricky things, but no weapons. So if there were women who used weapons, they were not the women who talked to me. So now I like this place because Isieux was for Jewish children. Either the parents sent their children there so they could be housed and schooled, or maybe the parents had died. And so I visited it, and it's like a museum now, and you see pictures. So here is a picture of Jewish seed. It was from March 1943. Well, maybe I can continue, but then I can't show my pictures because I was gonna go to my own story. But Isieux, the children, they were schooled there, and some of them painted, and they painted like a film to take all the 44 children that were there and sent them to Auschwitz. And I was horrified because he had children. He had a 3-year-old children. And the children who were there were from the age 3 to 17. And also there were several adults that were all sent, everybody was sent to Auschwitz. And I had the pleasure to interview their teacher. There was one teacher, and she wasn't at the school, at Isieux, she wasn't there when the troop came to get rid of everybody because it was Easter vacation. She was at home with the parents. So I had the pleasure to interview her, and I have a picture of her here when we can get to it. How long? And then I will tell you about my story, but I want to show you the pictures. Okay, so I was telling you about Isieux, that's what I just told you. And here are some of the drawings they were doing, and that was supposed to be a film when it was finished. Now here is the teacher whom I interviewed, Gabrielle Perrier, and she wasn't there the day they came, you know, all the people were taken, but the next day she met somebody in the street from the school, and she was horrified when she heard what happened. And she told me that one day somebody came to interview her and said, this never really happened. You know, that's what some people say. So here is my grandmother, whom I put here on my book. This is my grandmother, who's Galeba, and so I'm glad I put her here because she's the one who saved me. I'll tell you how. there was an organization. What? Yeah, there was, it's okay. There was an organization that was either created or renovated by Maréchal Pétain, and it was called Le Secours National, the National Help. And in it was the organization called the Family of the Prison. And so this group, this organization was sending children whose father either had been killed at war or was a prisoner. And so my mother thought she could enroll me with that group. And these children were supposed to go spend a month vacation with a family in Southwest France. But she was told that I couldn't be accepted because I was Jewish. So guess what happened? My grandmother, it was the 26th of August, 1942. So guess what happened? My grandmother took me by the hand and threw me in the train. And I was 3 and a half. And you're gonna hear in a minute the person telling you how she picked me up at the train station. She threw me in a train, and of course I was crying, etc., etc. But when I arrived to destination, which was, you know, near that little town I showed you on the card, there was this young woman. She was almost 21. Her name was Jacqueline Balest. And her father, she was there with her father. And her father had been wounded in World War I. And he was a member of that organization that was sending the children. So they had asked for a 4-year-old little boy, but this little boy didn't arrive. So when she saw me, she asked, so she was there with her father. This is her father and her mother. So she asked if she could take me. I was crying. She took me in her arms and she says, an angel sent me to you, very Catholic lady. This very Catholic lady died in 2020 when I was going to go to France. She was 99. She was a month from being 99. So, so this is the interview. So I hope this is going to work. This is the interview she gave to a French journalist. It's in French, but it has English subtitles.
Un jour, nous avons reçu une lettre du secours populaire.
So I'll move it faster.
Une petite fille s'appelle Monique Saigal. Mais il faut que nous nous disions qu'elle est juive. Et spontanément, nous avons dit, ça nous est bien égal qu'elle soit juive. Et puis, elle nous a dit que la grand-mère de Monique avait été arrêtée à Paris, déportée. Et Rachel, la maman, avait dû partir en zone libre. À ce moment-là,
So then, my grandmother, you know, she was in Drancy. She was sent to Drancy first before being sent to Auschwitz. My grandmother was sent to Drancy, and when she was there, she sent a card to her son, because until 1943, in Drancy, it was occupied, it was the French people who were working there. But in 1943, the German came in to take care of it. So there was no more letters and no more packages. So my grandmother was able to write a letter to her son. And she says, my dear son, Daniel, I am in Drancy. I don't know until when. What did she say? I'm as good as I can, something like this. And I'm thinking of you, and I kiss all of you, your mom. And so she was sent to Bobigny train station and Auschwitz-Birkenau. And in 2015, my daughter and I went to visit Auschwitz. Thank you very much. Okay, so it was, it was a terrible thing for me to visit Auschwitz, because knowing what my grandmother had gone through, and this woman, she had never hurt anybody. She was, I think, 61 years old. 61 years old, you're in good shape. I'm almost 84. So you see, did somebody go to Auschwitz here? So you know what I'm talking about. Yes. Okay. So here are the bedrooms. So they slept, 2, 3 together. And of course, if you were up there and you dropped your things, that could have been a bad thing. The bathroom, of course, no hot water, no towel. Auschwitz. And then they shave the people from top to bottom. And when you go to Auschwitz, there's rooms full of hair. With this hair, they made textile things in the industry, socks in particular. And so you had boxes of canes, you had boxes of hair, you had boxes of bags, boxes of what people came with, and boxes of glasses. So the gas chamber number 1, so they undressed the people, the prisoners, and they told them they were going to take a shower. And so, I think my grandmother having to do that, it's very hard. The wall of death. Then that's the original cattle car. I showed you a cattle car, but that was not the original one, because this is in Auschwitz. So this has a little window there where somebody could watch to see that he was doing the right thing, or she was doing the right thing. And then at the end of the war, the Germans got rid of the gas chambers. Now, in 1948, my mother received the death certificate of my grandmother. And it's written with letters. It's not written with numbers. You could see Trente, Trente. It has the date, all the information. And my uncle was with my little sister until the lady was found to take care of her. And here is my sister and my uncle. My sister's younger than me, but she has one hair and I don't yet. Almost. Because I'm very proud to tell you I've never taken it. So this is the little village where I was sent to. And this is the house I was in. They had a little store like they do in villages, 500 inhabitants, but every family had to give a bedroom to 2 German soldiers. So not all soldiers were Nazis, but some of them were. And actually, the one who became my godmother said to me that when her grandmother was talking to a German soldier who knew French, and she said, well, you're not even sending children. Oh, yes, sending everybody. So obviously, this guy was a Nazi, but it's odd that I was not discovered. Because I was going to school too after a while, and I kept my name. So this is my baptism. So this is Jacqueline Balest, my godmother, who holds me, and the little boy is my godfather, because they didn't have any men who were willing or available. And on the right-hand side, with my sister and her godparents. And her godparents lived in Free France, but we were in occupied France. So when I came in, they gave me a doll and I ripped it apart. And Jacqueline Ballet's cousin was a seamstress. She made me that stuffed animal. And they had a dog and I loved it. His name was Black, but he was brown. So one day, my mother came with my uncle, her brother, who was 5 years younger than her, to visit. But my uncle didn't stay, and my mother was denounced because there was a woman in the village who was dating a German soldier. Fortunately, this German soldier was not a Nazi. And he said to the woman from the village, you see this woman on this bicycle, my mother was on the bicycle, this woman on the bicycle is Jewish. And so that evening, that woman came to our neighbor to tell that, and the neighbor came to us to tell us that what this guy had said. And so you can imagine that this soldier was not a Nazi. He wouldn't have given my mother's chance. So they hid my mother in under the roof there. And that evening, a German soldier came with a dog. And obviously this one was not a Nazi either, because he came in to the yard, but he didn't ask to come in the house. So he was a good guy. So this is, I was going to school. Can you figure out where I am? That left one in front. Not too happy looking. So this was in 1949. My mother had come to visit and she had brought these two similar dresses. And the lady in the middle is the lady who took care of my sister. And so in 1950, my mother married an American who was a soldier during the war in France. He was looking for a room to live, and my mother was renting an apartment, and she said, well, you know, you could stay here. And he was also renting the room, and they got together, obviously, so they got married in 1950. He was Jewish, but he didn't want to know anything about any religion. So then they came to pick me up. I had been 8 years with these people. It was 1950. And I didn't want to, I was very, everybody was crying. They were crying. My godmother said she had never seen her grandfather cry. Everybody cried because I lived with my godmother, her father, her mother, her grandfather, her grandmother, and across the street, her aunt and her cousin, the same age. So there was a big family. So me, because I knew I was going to live, my way of resisting was that I developed the mumps. I had the mumps. So they put big cotton on my ears. And so when my mother came with her husband, and his sister came also, and she spoke French, the sister spoke French. They ripped those cotton out of my ears. It was a terrible, terrible experience. And so my godmother said, Monique needs to do her communion before she leaves. So before my mother came with her new husband, my godmother took me to Dax, which is also not very far from where I live. That's where the bishop was. And I did my communion. And I was very happy when I did my communion because I was the center of attraction and I had presents that I hadn't had before. So that was a good time. And then my godmother I honored her at Yad Vashem with her family. She was the only one alive by then. And this is the Israeli ambassador, but it took place in Paris. And so when she was honored, this is what she said. And I'm going to read you what she said. I do not think that I deserve this distinction because we cannot be rewarded for doing something normal and natural. You know, they could have been sent to Auschwitz. They had German soldiers living in the house, and they were all over the place. What my parents and I did was out of love for Monique. And she gave us love 1,000 times. And then the last sentence is very important. We are never wrong when we follow the road of love. And in 2007, I don't know if this is the next one. Oh no, here is my mother kissing my godmother at the ceremony. And this is the diploma of honor given to, if I went from this, to Sébastien, her father, Maria, her mother, and Jacqueline. Then this is when she received the Legion of Honor, 2007. And this is something very odd. Like about 3 years ago, so not long ago, the village of Lu decided to give her name to a street. Rue means street, but there's no street. This was just a passage leading to the presbytery, as I say, where the priest lives. So it was, and she didn't like that. She said this should have had the name of my father. So now I'm getting to the end. In the memorial of the Shoah in Paris, the names of the people who saved Jews are outside of the fence of the memorial. I mean, on the fence, but outside. And inside the yard of the memorial is the name of the Jews who were deported. So now you have the name of my grandmother. So I told you that we went to Auschwitz, the two of us, in 2015. And this is the Veldiv Memorial. It was, what is written is by a Polish fellow who was arrested. So this is some of the women whom I interviewed, but I'll stop to see if you have questions. Oh, one thing I want to tell you before we do this. I want to tell you that interviewing these women who were in the French resistance inspired me to write a book about having them in the book. But also, I want to say that it helped me accept my Jewish heritage. But you know, I'm Jewish, so I have the Chai, that means life, and 18, and I interviewed 18 women, but I also have my virgin for my Catholic of breathing. So I have both. So I didn't go to either one. But a couple of years ago, before COVID, I started moving to an Episcopalian church in Ontario. Okay, questions? Yes? I came when I was the first time was 1953. I came with my mother, my sister, and my stepfather because his family lived in Los Angeles. And we became an American citizen just by saying I did. And then we came back because my stepfather worked for the American government. We came back in 1950 6. And I said to them, I don't want to come back with you. Well, I didn't say that. I didn't want to do it. So I stayed. I moved in with my stepfather's sister who just adopted a baby, and I became the nanny in the summer. And then in October, school started in October. I went to UCLA, and that's where I get all my degrees, my BA. So that's that. So I'm here. In this book, I like to sign with you and tell it to you. It's $20. The thing is, I did not put it online. But what happened is that, see, I wrote it in French. I'll show you. I wrote it in French, and not the way I wrote it. This is the book I wrote in French. This one, the book now in French, because I changed it. When I published it in France, this was not my grandmother's book. And this book is big, but this one, this is the French one now. It has, not only does it have what's in here, but it also has my story and it has photos. And what I want to tell you is that since I have printed now, my sister lives in Arlington, Virginia, and it's printed there in Washington, D.C. So one day she sent me a box of 77 books and they never arrived. And so we found out from the post office that they didn't know exactly what happened, but it had sent the books to Atlanta, Georgia. The box must have broken. And I never saw these books. She had not insured the books. So that's why I don't like to have someone buying the book online, because I did not put it on. So there. So that's the story. So are you going to Mass now? So we are going to Mass too, and if you're interested. Okay. You want me to do it now? Can you sign it?
Yeah. Yeah.